Hello again to all our travel advisor friends. I hope you had a pleasant and a healthy Thanksgiving. For the record, this is the first Thanksgiving I can ever recall where there were only two of us at the table and where I didn't cook the turkey myself. It was my recipe and it was almost as good as the ones I have made in the past, but I didn't make the turkey personally. Nevertheless, it was a wonderful meal and it reminded me of all the blessings that we have in life and how fortunate we are. Meanwhile, there continues to be promising news about the pandemic, and we're getting better visibility in how this crisis will end and when we can restart our business. We're definitely not at the end. However, I believe that looking ahead, the range of likely outcomes is narrowing and the timeline is becoming clearer. Just next week, on December 10th, the FDA will consider for the first time the request for an emergency use authorization of the vaccine from Pfizer. A week later, they're expected to review Moderna's application. Now, while we can't prejudge the outcome, people are pretty optimistic. And after that, there are several other vaccines undergoing trials as we speak. I don't want to minimize the impact of the second wave that we're experiencing. The huge surge that we're seeing here in America and in so much of Europe, it's just awful. Still, the surge had been forecast months ago, and it is developing along largely predictable lines. That's what gives me the confidence to repeat my earlier forecast that we're now watching the beginning of the end of this horrible pandemic. Just as we can predict that the crest of a wave will reach new heights, we can also predict that after the crest comes the trough. The efforts to control the spread of COVID-19 have gained tremendous strength. The announcement about the efficacy of the new vaccines and the imminence of their likely approval, it's truly historic. When the pandemic started, many experts laughed at the idea of a vaccine being developed in 12 to 18 months. They said it was a pipe dream. And yet here we are, only 9 months later, on the brink of approval. The enormous effort of so many people has accomplished the unimaginable. But one aspect of this development hasn't gotten the attention I think it deserves. And that's the significance of the remarkable technology that's producing these vaccines. Historically, developing vaccines has been a very slow process. You needed to obtain some of the live virus and attenuate it so that it triggers the antibodies without making you sick. That process was really very clever and very helpful for development, but it took years. The two newest vaccines use a different approach. They don't use the virus itself. They have a different way of doing it. Instead, they artificially copy the spike proteins that surrounds the virus, and they trick the body into generating its own immune response. That allows quicker development and hopefully greater safety. This is very exciting, but there's also another aspect which also augurs well for the future. And that is the prospect that this same technology may help speed vaccines for other diseases. And that would be a terrific boon to all of mankind. While the vaccine developments are encouraging, so too are the developments on other fronts, including enhanced testing and effective treatments. We don't have such effective vaccines or herd immunities for the common cold or for the seasonal flu. But those don't cause a crisis because the consequences aren't as serious. Now, the combination of amazingly effective vaccines, broader and faster testing, and successful treatments is rapidly coming together. We can't entirely eliminate the virus, especially not in the short term, but we can do a lot to control it and to make the consequences of COVID less serious. Epidemiologists like to say that it isn't vaccines that stop an outbreak, it's vaccinations. Getting the vaccine into people's arms is key, and it's impressive to see how much preparatory work has already been done. Supply chains are already in place to get the vaccine from the labs to distribution hubs around the country. While there is a lot of commentary about the special handling requirements of these vaccines, this has all been known for months and extensive preparations have been made. For example, the FAA has already approved the first mass shipments of the vaccine. including such details as allowing airlines to carry the large volumes of dry ice that will be needed for transport. CVS and Walgreens have been vaccinating nursing home residents for the seasonal flu for years, and that experience will be very helpful here. Assuming the first vaccine approvals come by mid-December, they hope to have administered injections to the bulk of nursing home residents before Christmas. Frontline healthcare workers are already rolling up their sleeves for the injections. Frankly, I'm just happy that the shot goes in your arm and not lower down on your anatomy. Vaccinating the broader public will take some time, but not as much as some feared just a little while ago. It will start, as it should, with those who need it most, the elderly, those with comorbidities, etc. But it should fairly quickly become generally available. Dr. Fauci has suggested that he expects it will be available to everyone who wants one by the end of April. So, when do we get to resume sailing? We still don't know, but we are getting a clearer picture. Our hopes for a very early startup have been dashed, but so too is speculation that this current state of affairs will last until the end of the range. I've said repeatedly that our goal is to make cruising as safe or safer from the virus than on Main Street, USA, and we're making the effort now to ensure that day comes with appropriate speed and confidence. It's taken longer to get here than we had hoped, but it's clearer and clearer that we are approaching that date. It also seems that with the newest advances, the ramp up may be faster than many had feared. It's always hard to prepare for the sun when the storm is raging, but that's what we need to be doing. Wave period is just around the corner, and we all need to gear up for the expected booking surge. Make sure you have the information you need to advise your clients and that you're prepared your strategy for reaching them. The mood is generally negative today, and there's much uncertainty. Our job, and yours as travel advisors, is to look beyond today and prepare for the brighter future that's becoming more and more obvious every day. To prepare to meet the pent-up demand from consumers needing a change of scenery and with a desire to vacation together again. And don't forget to keep washing your hands and wearing your masks.